philosophy and the game we love and the way we operate within it. We'll uncover the potential of AI to elevate our clubs to new heights, making the game more accessible, enjoyable, and data-driven than ever before. Leading this discussion are two incredibly engaging individuals. We saw this presentation for the first time at the PGA of America annual meeting, and the feedback was incredible. I was in it. It was incredible. Please welcome to the stage the 2023 PGA of America Golf Executive of the Year and Club Manager at Greenbrier Golf and Country Club, Kelly Williams, and Head of Technology for the PGA of America, Kevin Scott.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us get the furniture arranged the way we want it up here. Hopefully we don't fall off the stage. It's a pleasure to be in Tennessee. I just live up the road, as we said, Lexington, Kentucky. Got a little windshield time this morning. Really trying not to hold the Vanderbilt beat down that we took my UK Wildcats earlier this season. So we're gonna pay that back, and we're gonna get your Tennessee Volunteers again tomorrow night, is our hope. In Lexington. So I know that's no way to start a presentation to a bunch of folks in Tennessee, but that's how I roll. I want to get your attention, right? To my right is, I think he's the smartest guy at the PGA of America. Sorry, Don Ray. Sorry, well, Derek Sprague's awful smart too, but Kevin Scott and I, paths crossed. We were constantly traveling together, and you know how some people, you just get on their rotation, you're on the same flight, you're going through the security checkpoint together, whatever it may be. Kevin and I got to know one another when I was on the board and just chatted it up, and I was always just so impressed with how brilliant he is. Chief Technology Officer, Chief Nerd, I get to call him that now. I call him with all my email questions. Hey man, I can't get logged in. He's like, we got somebody 4 levels down for you. Let me get you over to the right person. So now I'm traveling with him, and the reason I'm traveling with him is because I'm kind of the AI dummy who's starting to utilize this technology a little bit, and he's the expert, and he can tell you what it is and how to use it, but I'm here to provide some real world stories about how I'm using it at Greenbrier, how you need to be using it. Kevin is not only with us at the PGA of America, but kind of cut his teeth, or one of his roles was with ESPN in developing that app that they have, that if you go to it, you can see any score, any student you've ever had. You can look up their golf score, you can see how many points they scored on the basketball court. Men, women, doesn't matter, D1, 2, 3, they're all there. Guys like this are working for us at the PGA of America. Just kind of think about that for a minute and understand the kind of talent we have working with us. So I did want to introduce Kevin. Anything that I left out that you really want them to know about you?
No, I was just going to mention is that, so being part of the PGA of America, the HQ, what that means is that my role as the Chief Technology Officer is basically making sure that it blinks or beeps or buzzes the PGA. It has something to do with me. That's everything from scoring at the Ryder Cup down to making sure that the printers work. So there's a lot of information that flows through, all the moving money around the company, all that kind of thing. PGA.org you mentioned, .com, PGA Coach, all these different things that we do that we run have got some kind of technology component to it. So these days, not surprisingly, there's a lot of attention on AI, and one of the things we're trying to look at is to make sure that we stay towards the front of that and don't get caught left behind. Talk more about that.
Absolutely. So if I told you that I'm going to give you 2 hours in your week next week, your week's going to get 2 hours longer so that you can do what you want to do with that 2 hours. Who would raise their hand and be up for that? All right, most everybody's hand went up. What if I said maybe as many as 4 hours? You can play one more round of golf. Everybody's hand should be up right now. If not, you need to come work for me and never go home, okay? So everybody's got their hand up, right? We're going to try to give you 4 hours today. That's our goal. So we're going to introduce you to some different kinds of technology. AI is a buzzword. Artificial intelligence, what exactly is it? Well, go ahead and launch us into kind of our different topics today. We're going to be really heavy on ChatGPT. Another show of hands, who is using ChatGPT? Okay, we're about half. Good. So the other half of you is going to learn something today. The first half of you, I hope you're going to tell us what we need to be teaching others. Okay. We're also going to talk very briefly Fireflies, that's a note-taker meeting organizer app that I'm using personally in every single meeting, whether it's in person or virtual. Anybody heard of that one? Anybody using that right now? Okay, awesome. It will keep track of who is talking in your meeting, how much of various people chat, who's positive, who's negative. It'll give you a transcript of the whole entire meeting. It will record the meeting.
Who talks the most?
Always me. Imagine that. Always me. So anyway, Fireflies, take a look into that. I believe I pay like, I don't know, $250 a year for that. It's like having a free assistant or a $250 assistant, I guess is the way to put it. And then we're going to touch on some video editing software and some apps that will help you with that as we move along. Anything I left out, Kevin?
That sounds good. We're rock and roll.
Let's dive in.
All right, so we're going to spend just kind of a back and forth, a little bit of show and tell, a little bit of talk, a little discussion. So if there's something that you want to get out, just throw your hand up and let's hear about it. One of the things that we've seen, there's actually a lot of like really great experiences that you all have had. And so if you have things that you want to share with the rest of the group, like please do. I would have ordinarily just like showing these demos live, except like usually when you do that, something fails, so these are pre-recorded. But what you're going to see here, you're going to hear my voice, and then AI is transcribing that into a prompt to ChatGPT. You'll see what that looks like. And it's going to respond, and everything that it's doing is happening in real time. So it's not sped up, but you'll notice it's pretty quick. And hang in there, because these demos, they really do go fast, and we'll kind of circle back a little bit at the end to just sort of recap what you saw. But let's get started with the first one.
Write a job description for an assistant golf pro at a daily fee course in Michigan. Now make a scoring rubric that I can use to evaluate all the job applicants. Great, now just as an example, make up a fake resume for an inexperienced assistant golf pro.
This is real time, by the way.
That'll work. Now I want you to score that resume against the rubric that you created a second ago, and be sure to explain each one of your scores.
All right, so there's like a 0% chance you're ever going to do those four things all together, but it's like sort of showing you four different concepts. First one is it can write a job description. Doesn't matter what the job is, it can help you write it. A lot better than looking at a blank page. The second one is this whole concept of like creating some objective criteria that I would use to evaluate candidates against that. So it can obviously create that, and then it can assess any particular resume, as you saw at the end. Like this person got whatever, something out of something. And then in the middle there was help me write a resume. Anybody ever use ChatGPT to write a resume? So fantastic stuff there, really, really capable. And the good news is that like, if it gives you something that you don't like for the resume, toss it out. You've lost nothing. Or tell it to make it better. Tell it to change some things. Give it some context, and it will add that all in and speak really well about it.
And keep in mind, as we're getting ready to play these next demos, there are two different versions. You're going to see there's actually three different versions of ChatGPT. Two that I am remotely qualified to speak to. The free version, which is just chatgpt.com, and you're limited to a certain number of prompts daily that you can utilize, and it'll spit out some of this information. And then there's a paid version that's $20 a month. Again, it's the best $240 you're going to spend. So if your budget is already flown for this year, pitch your own $240 in. You'll make it back tomorrow if you use it tomorrow. And then there's a developer software way over my head version that I don't think that probably would be real relevant to this room, but just kind of to understand the different steps that exist out there, different levels.
Yeah, the other thing that we forgot to mention is that we're showing ChatGPT, which is a product of a company called OpenAI, but you can really use the same type of capability in a number of different places. One called Claude, there's one called LeChat, there's one called Gemini. So even though we're showing you ChatGPT, it's not a commercial for OpenAI. Let's go.
I work for Alpha Apparel Company. can you make me some marketing copy for a new golf shirt? It is a performance shirt, but it's actually got a retro look. Let's incorporate that. Great, now give me 3 names for the shirt. Those are pretty good, give me 50 more.
50 more, he said 50.
You go.
The nostalgic navigator was number 50. If you couldn't read, that's how fast that's happening.
Yeah, so the couple of points there. One thing that's really worth remembering: if you use these kinds of tools and you don't like what it gave you, just ask it to make it better, ask it to make it different, ask it to make it longer, more ideas, these kinds of things. So you can use it as a real sparring partner to help you generate ideas. I never do the best work by myself. Always helps to get another perspective, and you'd be surprised how disarming it is. Sometimes like kicking ideas around with other people can be a little bit intimidating sometimes, but when the computer's not going to judge it.
Yeah, I always tell the story that I do my best creative thinking between about 4 and 6 p.m. every day, and that's not always great because sometimes you need to get your work done between 9 and noon, and it's just, that's who I am. And so all of a sudden, how long would it have taken you all realistically to come up with the name of Golf Shirt? 50 different unique names. Like, I don't know, that's an hour at least for me, and they all would have been terrible. And instead, boom, we've got it, it's done right there in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds, right? So utilize this to your advantage to be your creative thought leader that maybe you can't get to on your own, or maybe it's the wrong time of day. But also, Kevin calls it the, what do you call it, the blank page?
Yeah, that's awful.
So who started that email, because it's the Tuesday golf email to your membership, dear members, and you know it's Tuesday morning and this is supposed to be out by 10 and all it says is dear members and it's now 9:58 and you got nothing, right? And it's the middle of February and you know it's supposed to snow in a few days and you got nothing. Well, if you can think ChatGPT, dear members, name the top 5 things that are happening at the club this week, give it some bullets, and then let it fill in the blanks. You'll be amazed at how brilliant you're going to look in a matter of maybe a minute or 2, maybe 5, rather than the hour to 2 hours that you might have had to spend dragging content out of your own brain. Now, you've got to lead it a little bit, right? You've got to do a little bit of the thinking. You have to know what's going on, but heck, look at your club calendar. Look at your last year's personal calendar. What was I doing this time last year? Prompt it to lead you somewhere and just see where you end up and see if that blank page doesn't go away pretty quickly.
Yeah, or point it to your Blue Golf or Golf Genius tournament results, or outing results, hole by hole stuff, and it'll create a narrative of what happened in the event.
Let's get into some golf shots here.
Identify this golf shot and tell me how to hit it.
Everybody can see the fried egg lie, right?
Looks good. Now turn that into a 2-minute script for my golf coaching YouTube series.
And just like that, you have talking points, you have a script. That would have taken me, again, 2 hours, right? Who's in the video space right now at your facility? Oh, golly. Okay, we've got a few hands going up. Well, I'm here to tell you that we all can't be Don Ray holding up our camera like this, videoing where we are all the time, right? But we need to start thinking a little bit more like Don Ray and getting ourselves, promoting ourselves in that way. That's how you're going to drive views. That's how you're going to make people think of you. That's how you're going to become top of mind. There is video editing software out there too that is going to help us to get there. I'm kind of skipping over one here, but we're going to get there in a minute. The point is, ChatGPT will give you that script. In our case at Greenbrier, February is for F-O-R-E improvement. I'd love to say that I came up with that on my own, but we have 4 TrackMan golf simulators in the putt view, and I asked ChatGPT to give me a syllabus to do a weekly 2-hour clinic indoors using those 3 amenities, and boom, out it spits a big long list. I should say, really an outline of what we're going to do. And then I gave it a little bit of pricing information. It's formatted. I'm ready to rock and roll. Once again, that would have been 4 to 6 p.m. That would have been on like the 3rd Tuesday of the month for me to have the time to think about that. And instead, I've got a document now in front of me that all I have to do is copy and paste, plug and play, and we're ready to go. Golf equipment.
I'm a sales rep for Paint. Give me some tips on how to sell the G430 Max driver to a private club in Grand Rapids. So it's going off, pulling in a bunch of information off the web. Help you get a good answer. Yeah, this is kind of basic stuff. Let's get real.
You might have noticed that there were some things on the right-hand side of the screen, looked like ads or something. They're not. Those are websites that it's going off and pulling information from in real time as it's running. So you may have heard, like sometimes these things, they're knowledge-based, sort of ended a year or 2 ago. It's no longer the case. So now they just go and grab whatever they need right as you're asking the system.
So who has that guy or gal at their facility who everybody goes to ask about the latest equipment? They need to know shaft profiles, what a certain grip weighs, how it's going to swing weight out. We've all got one of those, right? And if we don't have one, we're looking for one. Well, at Greenbrier, that's Greg Metters. He's a 25-year PGA member. And everybody goes to Greg and says, hey, what's this? Tell me about that shaft. Tell me about this head. Well, I had to rely on Greg, and Greg's not the most amazing communicator. I can say that about him because if he were sitting here beside me, he'd be like, I love Greg, but he can't teach our team all the things that he knows. So guess what? ChatGPT is now becoming our thought leader in that, where we say, okay, we're going to carry Ping, we're going to carry Titleist, we're going to carry TaylorMade, we're going to put in all the various drivers and the top shafts, and we're going to ask it to give us a summary. We're going to print that out. We're going to hand it to our staff, our team, and they're all going to be expected to read it. And now we have a baseline. We have a consistent starting point for every member who walks through the door that our staff should be able to at least regurgitate or reflect upon the packet we gave them of information. I mean, heck, I can't keep up anymore. I think we're at the G440 and Titleist has GT 1, 2, 3, 4, and probably a half 6 or something now. So it's happening fast, right? And we have to find a way to keep up. Well, let this help you. Don't spend hours pulling this information off the web. Let it do your hard work for you. I guess I got one more. Let me just give you one more really good real world example. And if it feels like we're rushing through this, we kind of are, because we probably got like 2 hours of material that we're trying to cram into 50 minutes for you today. But I'm going to give you one more example of how I've been using ChatGPT and how it just really helps me. Who has had that member complaint email come in on a Sunday afternoon? It's say maybe 2:30, and now here we go. We've read it and we hate what we're seeing because we know we have to respond. We have 2 choices. We can try at the end of our week to fire off some energy into this email that we're not really looking forward to having to respond to, or we can put it off until Tuesday morning and think about it while we're off on Monday and toil over it and all the angst and everything. So those are our 2 scenarios, right? Or scenario number 3 that I present to you today is Mr. Miller just had the chicken quesadilla at lunch. He really didn't like it. I'm here to tell you there's nothing wrong with the chicken quesadilla. I eat it all the time. It's wonderful. Mr. Miller doesn't like a lot of things at the club, but he's chosen today to tell me about it, and I've opened the email. So now I'm stuck with having to respond. Have a bit of a sense of humor, maybe somewhat sick, you might say. And I decided, you know what, I am gonna respond, and I'm gonna respond right now. I'm aggravated and angry because I know the product is good, all right? So I gotta try to put my pride aside, my ego just a little bit here for a minute. Or I can use ChatGPT. And so I'm like, let's have some fun. Copy his email, paste it into ChatGPT, say, hey, please write a positive response to Mr. Miller's email, asking him for more information about why he didn't like it, and what we could do better in the future so that he feels heard. Out, I've got a big long response in a matter of 45 seconds. Now, I have two choices at this point. I can copy and paste and send, or I can copy, paste, read, and send. Okay? I strongly urge you to read. ChatGPT is incredibly talented, but it doesn't know you as well as you know you. And your name is going to be at the bottom. In this case, my name is at the bottom. So I read it through. I change, I don't know, maybe 5 words at the most to make it a little bit more relevant to Greenbrier and a little more authentic. And I press send. I get up, I take a walk across the parking lot to where the chicken quesadilla was served. I check in with our team. Stan, cooked 1,000 of these things. Everything going okay today? Any issues with chicken quesadilla? Of course not. Everything's been great. Ticket times are way under 20 minutes. We're doing great. Don't worry about it. Okay, super. By the time I get back to my desk, it's not that far. We're not a huge campus. Mr. Miller's already responded. He can't believe that on a Sunday afternoon I have taken the time to provide him such a thoughtful response. He appreciates it. He provides a little bit of feedback for me that he thinks would be helpful in us with our chicken quesadilla in the future. And so now this could be done, right? But the sense of humor kicks in again. And I'm like, okay, this is wonderful. Copy, paste it into ChatGPT, tell him how much I appreciate his response, asking for a little more info. Boom, I read it, I send it, and he responds again. Just blown away. The chicken quesadilla is really not that bad. Maybe it just wasn't the best day. He's really pretty happy with it. He just wanted me to see what Malone's is doing around the corner, wanted to see how theirs looks. And the next time we cross paths at the club, he's just telling me how he just can't believe that I was so, concerned about his concerns. Now, I made a fan out of that. Had I responded on my own, I probably, by Sunday afternoon, wouldn't have been so positive. I probably wouldn't have made a fan. I probably would have just stood my ground and held my own. But instead, I let this tool that I have help me through, no negative energy, didn't wear me down, and made me really a hero in the eyes of my customer in that case. I say that because there's not one single person out here that doesn't have some sort of a scenario like that exists or will exist by the time you get to your desk tomorrow, that you couldn't utilize that scenario and that same tool to your advantage. And I encourage you to do so. Don't be afraid of that.
I think there's something important in there. We think about good habits or forms starting with triggers. If you find yourself staring at a blank page, that's a trigger for maybe there's an AI solution. If you find yourself looking at your computer screen feeling like that emotion is a trigger, lean into it a little bit and give it a shot. Play around with some of these things and see if there's something you can help out with.
Awesome. Do some web research on Augusta Ranch Golf Club, our programs, events, F&B, and everything. I'm in the middle of updating our website and I need a really good FAQ page.
I'm not sure if you've heard of Augusta Ranch or not.
Part 61 still?
Our programs, events, F&B, everything I asked for. Yeah, that's fine, but this is kind of short, so keep going. I need a ton of FAQs. That's great. Now I can take all this, copy paste it into an AI phone system, select a voice, and then I will have this.
It's a great day at Augusta Ranch Golf Club. What can I do for you?
I thought you told me you guys have a cool driving range. Can you tell me about it?
Sure. The driving range has Top Tracer technology, which makes it really interactive and fun. It's fully lighted too, so you can practice even at night.
Is it expensive?
The small bucket costs $10 and the large bucket is $20. There's also a punch card option for better value.
I don't get out of work until kind of late. How's that work?
The driving range is open at night, so you can definitely practice after work.
Okay, what about food?
There's the Scratch Pub and Grill inside the clubhouse, offering a variety of food and drinks in a family-friendly setting.
Is there like tunes or something? Is it gonna be fun?
Yes, the pub often hosts live music, theme nights, and trivia events. It's a fun place to relax after golfing.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Enjoy your time at Augusta Ranch.
Our first version of that, she said the driving range is lit, and I've been dying to be with Don Ray to ask him, is it lit or is it lit? I mean, which is it? Right? That's what I expected, nothing. Kevin, awesome. I mean, you're having a conversation with AI now, and it's giving all the right answers. How do we do that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of services that exist. So the point is that this is not science fiction. It really exists today. There's even some that are sort of golf specific and they'll integrate it with your tee sheets. If you wanted to start to offload phone calls, this is a way that you can possibly do it. And everything that it knows about Augusta Ranch is because I fed it in here. I told it basically like, you're gonna be a phone system, you're gonna answer a call, you're gonna talk to customers, and here's everything you need to know about Augusta Ranch based on the FAQs that it went on the web and did the research. So we switched tools here. The voice assistant is no longer ChatGPT. We just took some web research that ChatGPT did for us, fed it into the phone system, and now it's talking to customers. If it's me, I still find that a little bit weird, like to think that it's trying to have a conversation as a human, but it's really not a human. Like, even I find that a little bit weird. I suspect that over the next 2 years, that all of us are going to become a lot more accustomed as consumers. We're going to run into this kind of thing a lot. So your golf course might not be the first place that people should run into it, but the idea of like pretty reasonably conversant chatbots, voice chatbots are going to be out there, and it'll just become common.
I think it's a really great time to mention that when we first gave this presentation in Kentucky, we did it virtually, and I really pressured one of our young stars in the section, Erin Horn. She's a marketing director at Valhalla, and I said, what do you think about some of these tools, especially when it comes to creative and design aspects of it? And she said, golly, I'm afraid I'm going to be replaced. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks for a minute. And I said, no, Erin, there's nobody who can walk a potential member around Valhalla Golf Club and introduce them to the staff and to the team and tell them about the amenities and share the true essence of all the PGA of America championships that have been hosted there like you can. But if you're behind your desk trying to overthink things and build content that this AI service can do for you, you're not in front of that potential member and that prospective customer doing what you do best. So let it help you provide the human touch. Let it get you on the first tee on a Saturday morning greeting your customers so that you're not stuck behind the desk. Kevin always says we didn't get into this business to write job descriptions. I sure as heck didn't. We have to do enough of it. Let's use these tools to our advantage to make us better at what we are really good at and why we did get into this business, which is the people side of it, the people aspect of shaking hands, kissing babies, giving golf lessons, making people enjoy the game even more. Time for Nate, right?
Yeah, so we're going to shift gears again into video, and since a lot of you aren't doing video, this might not completely land, but you should know, if you make a video, most of old people like me, we tend to hold our phones this way, the cool kids hold it this way, and just it turns out if you have a video that's going this way, converting it to the other way is kind of a pain, getting it cropped and all that kind of thing. Also, so Rocky's going to show us an example. He has like a 5-minute video here. He does a bunch of these, and like the camera doesn't move. It looks like the shot that you see on the screen. So cutting that up, trimming it down, making it short, cropping it to the right thing, getting the size there, getting the flashy captions and all that kind of thing, that takes some work. So if you're making videos, you're going to spend more time editing and dealing with like the logistics of managing the videos than you will in front of the camera. And so here's a tool called Opus Clip that helps with that stuff. So it's not creating the video, it's just doing all the edits and chopping it up. You'll see.
my right arm work off my body instead of into my body, you'll see a path that's going to be far more left, and that's where we start seeing pulls and slices and a huge power and accuracy output with us. Arm comes off the body, path goes like this. Well left, dangerously left, and it forced me to hold the club face open, creating that big slicing pattern that a lot of players have seen.
So a little bit more fun. It's got the high punch captions and all that kind of thing. It's like chopping the video and moving it with different zoom ratios and all that kind of thing. This tends to be a lot more what you'll see on the cool social platforms. And it turns out, like in the 3 minutes that it took me to create that video, for it to create that highlight, it also created 7 others. You can just pick whichever one you like the best.
And a little shameless plug here for those of you who's on PGA Coach. All right, good. So you have a really, really easy way to contact every single customer, lesson taker, student that you have, right? Shoot a video like this, send it out to them and say, hey, what do you think about my video? Does any of this apply to you? You threw a little line in the water. I bet you book a lesson within 48 hours of it. I bet you book more than that, depending on how many students you have in your database. So start using these things to generate a little bit more business for you. Maybe somebody hasn't been thinking about taking a lesson just yet, but all of a sudden, if you show up in front of them with a little piece like this, you're top of mind, and now they're on your calendar. So there's a shameless plug for PGA Coach too, which I absolutely love, and that's not because Kevin's here. I absolutely love it.
Thanks, man. Talk through fees.
Sure. So you've seen, we're real heavy in ChatGPT, but it seems like that's where most of the basics, you got to have a foundation to get started, right? Anything that you can dream up, manuals, communications, rule sheets, think of it in terms of formatting. If you're like me and you hate trying to figure out bullets and tabs and numbers and all that stuff, plug it in, ask it to format it in a certain way. If you don't like it, ask it to change it. If you don't like it the second time, tell it to give you 3 options for the next time, and then pick the one you like best. So just some other ways to utilize this. I would be remiss if I didn't say that you can connect some of these tools together. I got off the stage at PGA annual meeting, and Susie Whaley, you got to know Susie and understand, she's like my PGA mom sometimes. She's like, Kelly, you forgot to tell them that you can connect Canva to ChatGPT. You forgot to tell them. I'm like, Susie, they didn't know what Canva or ChatGPT was when I got on the stage, okay? Connecting them would be over everybody's head, but the point is, these things will talk to each other. They're going to continue to talk to each other even more. They can build images for you that are based around the content that you're creating. You want to talk Canva a little more? Or?
Anybody use Canva? It's a killer tool, right? Pretty good stuff. And one of the things I want to highlight there is that it's not like you have to go into something like ChatGPT, do your AI stuff, and then figure out how to bring it back to your world. Increasingly with things like Canva, if you're in Canva, it's going to have a bunch of AI stuff in it. And it's going to be more and more true with all the different things that you use. If you use stuff like HubSpot or Salesforce or any of the other software tools, this is all coming in. A lot of companies, Microsoft, at your facilities, features are coming, more and more stuff. So it'll be less disjointed in the future. The one thing I'd kind of give you is a little bit of a rallying cry. If, for example, you have tournament management software of whatever kind that might not have AI in it, I'd encourage you to talk to the providers of those different softwares and say like, hey, can you make this easier for me? Like, managing a tournament might be more work than it needs to be. How can software help me? And you can apply that to basically anything you pay money for in terms of software. I'd really hope that you'll lean on those providers to make sure that they're doing everything they can to keep pace.
Yeah, I have a son who has just finished his 10U baseball season. Every game is on Game Changer, and if I see some heads nodding, that means you have a child in youth sports, right, or a grandchild, either way. It creates an AI-generated summary, like box score with a summary below, and Cameron Williams did X or Y or Z during the game. There is no reason Blue Golf or Golf Genius, and I'm talking to both, so if there's a sales rep in the room, I hope you're hearing me, can't be doing that for us and saving us a little bit of time on the back end. We're paying you folks enough money. Jump on board, keep up with what we're doing in the golf industry, make our lives a little bit easier. And for those of you who are a customer of either or both, drive that point home to your reps and to the folks you're paying those big bills to every year. You want to talk safety and security? I guess that's plagiarism. That's the question that tends to always come up.
Sure. So if you write the job description that was there, or if you write a promo or something like that using ChatGPT, is that, well, there's a few different levels to take this. So one of them is that plagiarism, is that theft? If you were then to go and use that for commercial purposes to promote your own organization, is that okay? The general rule, and there's different interpretations of this, but the general rule is that when you take output from one of these large language models, you actually do own the results. So that frees you from copyright and these kinds of things. The Supreme Court came a couple of weeks ago now, 2 or 3 weeks ago, with a ruling that basically says copyright is something that has to involve a human act or something. So by the nature of it, you're the only human involved in this kind of thing, everything else is a machine. So what you get back in the terms of service that you'll see in the agreements from companies like OpenAI reflect that now as well, so you own the rights there. In terms of, is it cheating? That's kind of a different dimension on it. I don't know, ask your kids' teachers. As you can imagine, like things like academia and education, they got a lot to wrestle with right now, right? It's kind of understanding what does it mean to learn, and sort of undermine some of the techniques that are there. I'm a little bit past high school at this point, so I'm pretty happy that I can just take this stuff and focus more on the outcomes I get. What are the results? How does it make your quesadilla story or our front page PGA.com? If it makes the content better, I want it. Don't care if I had a shortcut or get help from a computer to get it. I want the best results possible. I suspect that as you play around with this, you'll get more comfortable with that kind of thing. You're also going to realize that half the stuff you're getting has been generated as well.
Yeah, just yet another example. I mean, I'm working towards my PGA Master Professional. I was getting a whole lot further along until we started doing this once a week in a different part of the country, but that's okay. I'm here to help. I mean, I want to make your lives easier and better. That's why we're doing this, okay? But I went to Dawes Marlette and I said, hey, I'm trying to get all these literature reviews in a certain style, APA. I didn't do that. When I was in college, I hated it. And so I just started plugging the book name in ChatGPT, and out it comes. And he's like, good for you, man. I really just want to know, did you read the book? And can you tell me what book you read? And so guess what? That took about 5 minutes to get all 10 of my lit reviews done and in the proper formatting. So that's where I wrestled with cheating a little bit personally. And bottom line is, it's done now, right? And we don't have to worry about that anymore. So,
the other thing that actually exists on the other side of the grading wall as well. So, I'll confess that at PGA, our education team does not actually use ChatGPT to evaluate those portfolios, but we could. And a maybe less toothy version of that would be to give the same way that we saw the rubric for evaluating a resume as a job description. We can just actually the rubric's on the thing that gets turned in. So it's not like it's hidden or anything like that. We just give that, wrap it up in a chatbot, and allow people to pre-submit, objectively against the criteria. Hey, computer, do you think this is good enough to turn in yet? So there's different ways to think about it, and that feels a lot less sketchy than thinking that your official, headquarters-based grader is using a computer to evaluate things.
yeah, and do your customers really care if you're giving them the right answer, where it came from? I mean, you help formulate the response, right? Another great way to utilize it, we didn't really talk about this, it was moving fast, but we had the image of the fried egg lie. How did we get that image in there? Well, you right-clicked on an image somewhere on the internet and you hit copy and paste. Or, for those of you who email all the time like I do, there's a little paperclip attachment, right? You can attach a document. You better believe my ChatGPT has my rules and regulations in my membership plan, because what are the 2 most common questions I get? Is this against the rules of the club? Can I do this with my membership? Can I transfer it? No, and you'd be amazed that it will cite the rule by number, page number, and provide that response. So feed it the information that you need, to make your life easier, to get you home to your kids and your wife or your family or wherever it is you need to be. Get there faster by using the tools at your disposal.
One more thing that we didn't emphasize quite enough, because it's a super important point, is this other thing that, like, at the bottom of whatever you send out is probably going to have your name or your club or whatever on it. So it's super important to own the actual content yourself and be comfortable with it as your own. An example of that at HQ, so we run PGA.com, we have all kinds of Twitter accounts, and in there sometimes comments get spicy. And so by policy, it's totally okay to have an AI go off and look and like tell me when the comments are getting hot, and you even like draft me something that we can, if it's appropriate for PGA to chime in or something like that. Totally okay, no problem at all. But by policy, as soon as one of our employees says like just automatically like draft a response and post it to Twitter, fire. So really, really big difference between these kind of things. So great to have it come up with ideas, really not great to have it going off on its own and speaking on behalf of our brand.
Kevin would call that human in the loop, right? Human in the loop. So go ahead to that last one. As Kevin would say, this is your money slide right here. Take a picture of this one. This just gives you a ton of, I mean, we're not getting paid by ChatGPT, we're not getting paid by Opus. Those are just two that we chose to highlight because they're the ones I'm kind of smart enough to use and I'm using right now. But many of these tools do a lot of those same things. You may just find that you like one better than the other. I think they also are driving each other to become stronger, to compete with one another. It's healthy.
Yeah, the gazillions of dollars that are going, I mean, you can see the headlines, right? Like, companies are spending like absolute crazy to be in on this race, and thank goodness, right? We all benefit from it, so. The thing I'll point out is that this list actually is highly curated, so for every company on here, there's 10 or 20 others that like you filtered through to just narrow it down to a few of the best, and these are the ones that have been kind of persistent so far.
And if there's anybody in here in the podcast world, I want to hear from you, if it's right now or after we're done. I guess Opus is really a good podcast editing tool as well. So I want to, there are a lot of golf professionals who want to be in that space or already are in that space, and I want to hear how you're doing it. And I'll also give you one more shameless plug that has nothing to do with AI. If you haven't already, if you got to drive home tonight, that's an hour or so, the Inward 9 podcast is conducted and put on by a PGA member, Chandler Withington. It's really about work-life balance, about making yourself better, being the best version of yourself. I would challenge you to subscribe to that, download it, maybe listen to it on your drive home. I'm not just here to talk AI, I'm here to just try to help you be a better human as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed something we've had to say today.
Casey, we have 10 minutes for questions? Okay, then we'll put you back on schedule too.
I would want to know your example of the quesadilla story.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the day, you made a comment about your name and your body. Okay, and being very old school, like double time old school. I hear in my heart, I hear integrity, honesty, real. I hear that's both. You didn't respond to his complaint. You have GTP, whatever it is, to respond, and you agreed with it, or you put your name on it. But where's that at? Where is that in this? Because that's where I'm having a big problem about personal. I understand all those are great. I'm gonna learn to do it, but I'm not sure I can ask you to solve a problem for me that I put my name on and send it out as if I thought of it, I did it, I created it, you know. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think a lot about it, and I think that I could have absolutely gotten to where ChatGPT got me. It would have taken me much longer. It would have taken me taking a deep breath, maybe a day away. I promise I could have ended up in the same space.
Would it maybe if somebody would have like reviewed it for you, like, hey, can you take a look at this before I send it out?
Yeah, absolutely, and we do that in our facility all the time. I write something and I share it with our controller and I say, read this response before I send it because I'm mad as hell about what this person is saying here. So give me your thoughts on it and take my emotion out of it. So it eliminated the emotional response in that case. Now, again, I read that thing top to bottom and my name was at the bottom, so I owned whatever it said, good, bad, or indifferent. So I agree with you. It took me a while to get there, but I'm probably a little over a year and a half in using these tools pretty regularly, and I've gotten a whole lot more comfortable with taking a step back from the emotional side of it and owning. And I don't always agree, and I don't always send it. There are some things I'm like, I can just do a little better than that on my own.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Could you put it from the desk up, Kelly Williams? That way it's not. I mean, it takes care of that integrity question.
Yeah, I guess I could do it that way.
Yeah, for,
Yeah.
It's coming from your desk.
Yeah. Yeah, my members know I don't have a whole team to write them for me, so they know it. If it came from my desk, I hit send. But that is fair. Yes, sir.
What happens when it spits out bad information? Like I've once used ChatGPT. I'm a golf instructor. Tell me the 5 best golf instructors in Nashville, and they're not from Nashville. Is there ways that either PJ as a whole or us that we need to be doing to make sure, you said you need to feed it, but like sometimes it's being fed for some websites or places that might not be beneficial for us, for that information to come from. How does that work out?
I think that's a short-term phenomenon. You're going to find it getting better and better. If you ever do spot it doing something like that, then go back in its face and say like, that's no good. That's actually not right. Go out, do the research, scrape all the find the right information, and give it another shot. I think you're going to find you have to do that less and less often as they become sort of defaulting to grounding, so grounded in real truth. But you're exactly right. If you go back 2 years ago, it was awful at it. Called hallucinations. They would just make up information and that kind of thing. That's less and less the case every month that goes by.
So this hand right here.
Just a couple of different things. One, I've done that with ChatGPT. It's get a wrong answer. If you tell it it's wrong, it'll actually apologize and